All right, let's get started. We're at about 130 students. So, first and most important, who did Frankenstein go trick-or-treating with? Frankenstein went trick-or-treating with your mom? No. He went trick-or-treating with his ghoul friend. So let me pop that up. With his ghoul friend. Come on. Huh. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. I did a mute all before the meeting started so that we'd lower the noise, and I muted myself on the interface instead of on my microphone. My microphone was telling me I was fine. Yeah, so Frankenstein went trick-or-treating with his ghoul friend. Puns are the best kind of jokes. All right, so what do we have for today? We don't have a lot of housekeeping today. I think maybe the housekeeping we have is relatively important, but we don't have a lot of it. The most important thing is that your next test is scheduled for 10:29. We'll take a little bit of time at the start of this meeting, at the start of this class, to go over some things, show you where the work is. Like normal, we've uploaded some sample questions, and also like normal, we'll upload some answers for you, but not until Monday. We want you guys to actually work on the questions yourself. It's not the same looking at somebody's answer while you're developing it as it is developing it on your own. So we want to give you the opportunity without temptation to develop your own solutions before you go off and look at the solution we give. Tomorrow is drop day, so if you are considering dropping, please do it before then. I'm not encouraging any of you to drop. It's just something I like to tell people that this is the last day to drop without having to go through an extensive amount of paperwork. So, with that in mind, where do we want to start? I guess the best place to start is let's go here, and we will. Let's see. There we are. And let's kind of go into and talk about this next exam. We have material uploaded, I hope, because I uploaded it. Here, this is the exam from spring 2017. So this was, a few years ago. The material hasn't changed. You can get an idea. And of course, it says fall 2016 and March 27th, 2017. So apparently when we started off, we started off with an error. Regardless, how we normally give them during a semester is we have some show the output questions, and these would be questions where you would be expected to trace through the code and tell us what, if anything, the code output. We have some single one-liners, we call them. This would be a one-line of Python code, one line of Python code to solve a given problem. And then we would get into longer form problems. And you can see here that we have essentially 3, 4, A and B, 5, and 6. So 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 4 problems, one of them with 2 parts, are essentially long form questions. And then there's 2 shorter form questions up above it. So this is actually a relatively short exam. This has gotten as long as 8. So just to ground you guys as to how long the exams are, you're not getting longer exams because, because of the online. We are limiting the number of questions we give you to 3 to 4. They are slightly longer, but not really longer. A lot of the stuff that's longer are questions about input that that you can do a cut and paste on. So I just want you to take a look at these. This is, and essentially this was given in the fall or in the spring of 2017. So just to kind of ground you as to what you should expect. So that's good. The other thing we want to take a look at maybe quickly, please go through that. We will, again, provide solutions on Monday so that you're ready to you can check your answers and be ready for the test. Maybe even more important than the exam from previous semesters is the overview. So I just realized that this probably didn't switch. Maybe it did. I don't know. There we go. So this was what the exam looked like. Again, there's two sections up above that are short answers, about 4 questions that are short answers, and then the questions down below that are more in line with the format of the questions you will probably expect on this exam. And then we have the overview. This is a very long document. It's designed to give you as much practice as we can. It's not required that you work through this, but it is recommended that if you have questions about specific areas, if you're having problems with specific loops or lists of lists or nesting, whatever, there should be enough problems on here that you should be able to get a sufficient practice. There's a few things that we want to talk about. The test is on Thursday, October 29th. That's a week from today. We will not have a class that day. I will, however, run this as a question and answer session, so you can bring in your questions about the test, and I will answer them to the best of my ability during this time period. We are going to change the format for the exam. We're not going to try what we tried last time. You will have 90 minutes. We will be taking the exam right within the submittee interface. So when you start the exam, a timer will start. When you submit, your time will be recorded. You can submit as many times as you like, but your time will, whatever the time of your last submission will be the time how long you took the exam, and we will actually, submittee gives us the ability to actually deduct points. We didn't use this last time because, quite honestly, we were worried about the load on submittee. And we didn't find out exactly how to do this until about 5 days before your test. So we were also worried about giving you guys different information. We didn't want to change things up on you. This time we're doing it. We're going to try to stagger your start times a little bit. So please be on the lookout for a message from us by Tuesday on what your actual start time is. So the nominal start time is 6:55. We will probably try to stagger you into groups, maybe starting 30 minutes apart, and you can start anytime within your 30-minute block. Your time doesn't start at the start of the 30-minute block. It starts when you download when you open up the exam on the submittee interface. So, we'll start timing you from then. So please don't open it up until you're ready to start taking it. And once you do open it up, please proceed with all due haste to complete it up. If we don't get back to you, if we don't tell you that we've staggered the times, we will give some leeway in when we will accept the tests back. Just be prepared to run into some delays and know that the test doesn't start until you open it up. If you have accommodations, we'll take that into account. Don't worry about that. You'll still just start and proceed, and then at the end we will make sure that we fit you within your appropriate time period. There's going to be 3 to 4 problems. They'll be most likely the long form problems. We're still debating whether we want to do some possible one-liners. I don't think we're going to end up there, but You should be prepared for those as well as for the longer form problems where you're going to be expected to write, some amount of code. You won't get any auto-grading feedback. You won't see any points. You can submit as many times as you like, but your submissions will be timed, and the last submission will be considered the time of your how much time you took on the test. I'm going through and seeing if there's any questions here that I need to. Okay. One thing that we found, the major difference we found, other than the fact that we couldn't monitor your time and usage of external devices, was you guys are using IDEs to check your answers, and we're not prohibiting that. But you're being graded on all 4 problems. And we are grading you primarily on the appropriateness of your algorithm. If your code runs and gives us the correct answer, and it doesn't violate any rules or anything we told you not to use, isn't copied, etc., then you'll get a really good grade. But you don't have to do that to get a really good grade. What you need to do is you need to answer every question with an appropriate response and no more than a few minor syntax errors. So make sure your algorithms are correct. What I'm going to recommend you do, and I think that this is where a lot of you got hung up on time issues, is it's hard to write 4 separate programs and get them all correct, including formatting, within the 90 minutes. It's not quite as hard to write 4 successful algorithms with maybe a few minor issues. And you will still get the bulk of the credit for the second part, and you'll have answers in all 4 of the sections or all 3 of the sections. So what I'm going to recommend you do is don't get hung up on getting the answers exactly right. Get the algorithm as right as you can for each of the 4 problems first, and then once you've done that, submit your answers, and then go back and debug the ones that you still have time to debug. Don't get hung up on trying to get the absolute perfect answer for question number 1, when question number 1 is worth 25 to 33% of your grade, and questions 2, 3, and possibly 4 comprise the bulk of the exam. So don't get yourselves caught up on pursuing perfection in one answer and not getting to the other 3 or the other 2. Okay, so please, think about that when you're taking your test. It's really important that you answer all the questions and not just assume, or not just answer one of them absolutely perfectly. We're not exactly sure what the submission is going to be. There will be a separate submission for each problem. It may be that you paste the answer into a block. It may be that you submit a PI file. But, so this might be a little bit changed. It will be understandable, and we will explain it. I thought I pulled that out, but I pulled it out of someplace else. We are probably not going to answer questions during the exam. There's no benefit to us giving extra information to a small subset of students. We certainly can't answer all 650 of you or 700 of you, however many there are. So we will probably not be answering questions unless there are real emergencies. So if there is an emergency, please email us. Don't mail the individual instructors, because we will be doing it in shifts, monitoring the mailing list. If you send it to one of us individually, you'll either not get an answer until half the exam is over, should we decide to answer, or you'll have already missed the person you sent it to, and you won't get an answer at all until the next day. So, don't email us directly. Use a mailing list that will go to both of us, and that way, if there is something that we want to respond to, we can do it. But again, we're going to try not to respond just because we don't want to advantage one person over the other. State if things are confusing, state your concerns or your assumptions, and we will decide whether they're appropriate or not. This is your test. It should be all your work. You shouldn't be on Discord talking to your friends. You shouldn't be asking your friends to interpret a question for you. You shouldn't be copying code. Okay? That's what the honor code says. On my honor, I have neither given nor received any aid on this exam. We will be checking your tests. You know, I hate to be in this part, but we will be checking your tests. If things are too similar, we will call you on it. All right, that's the end of that. All of this is just what it's on. You guys should be aware of this. It's up through today. It's labs 4 through 6. That includes the Sudoku lab, and it's up through the homework that you're working on right now. And the reason for that is it's going to be, you know, we want you to have all the material on lists of lists, double loops, double nested ifs, all of that stuff is very important, and that's what this test is going to primarily focus on. Although if we want to use some tuples and modules, we'll throw them in as well. Anything from previous chapters, from previous, you know, from exam 1 is fair game. We're not going to cover images. You should understand images in the context of a module that you can use, but we're not going to ask you to do a paste or a crop or anything like that. No lists, understand aliasing, understand why strings and tuples don't participate in aliasing. Be able to pass lists as arguments, understand how aliasing will affect your answers on that. Know all the list functions, you know, list append, list concatenate. Know Booleans, comparisons, know Boolean functions. We did a little bit on truth tables. Make sure you can write a truth table. I think that's probably most of what we want you to talk about. You know, the only other thing I'm going to mention is that I stripped out a whole bunch of what are the output questions from this study guide. I didn't strip them out because they were inappropriate. I stripped them out because we will not have what is the output type questions on here. It's way too easy for you guys just to pop that into an IDE and get the answer. But I left some of them in the study guide, and I left some of them in the study guide because you should be able to read through code and understand what it does. That will help you debug your own code, and it'll also help you it will also you know, help you understand some algorithms. You know, we have some complicated algorithms in here. We have some algorithms that use list functions and other things. And if you can read through the code and understand what they do, that'll give you a better opportunity to actually use those on your test to make your test faster. All right, let me check for questions. If there are any questions on this, please ask them. Somewhere in here I have a there we go. There will be points deducted. It will be increasing. So the question is, are there points deducted if the exam is submitted late or an automatic 0? We will deduct points up to you know, some limit, and then it'll be a 0. So if you're 24 hours late, it'll be 0. You can read documentation. It's not open internet in the terms of you can't go to Stack Overflow. You can't go to Discord and ask your friends. You can't email a professor at another college. But if you have your documentation stored online, if your code is stored online, you are welcome to access that. Don't go Googling for answers. What'll happen is if you're the only one Googling, you're fine. If multiples of you Google, we will catch it as a cheat. And right, so no W3 schools, no, you know, and don't bank on getting more points after the 90 minutes. It's not worth going over the time, because, you know, after half an hour, no matter how many questions we have on the test, 30 minutes over and you've lost an entire question's worth of credit at a minimum. The penalty will be no less than one point per minute. All right, let's see. You can use the Python documentation, particularly the help functions in the Python. Yes, you should know lists, and you can use Python documentation, particularly stuff you get from the IDE, like help list. Okay? Again, just don't go out on the internet and search for things on Stack Overflow or other sites. Don't ask your friends. Don't be on Discord discussing the test. I would recommend not being on Discord at all through this. And none of us have, I think the other question I have here is none of us have seen the exam yet. There's a reason for that. It will be written before you take it. That's all I can guarantee. All right. Anything else? If not, let me see. What am I going to do here? Let's turn that one off. We'll turn this one on. We'll try to give